Not so many angry people, I think, in this group because, not so many people coming. Very good. Not now. Not yet, maybe. So, well, I mean, it is different for people. No? Some people are more naturally angry than others. For some people, especially if they are a little bit into yoga, it will not be so difficult not to be angry, and they will feel that most of the time they are not really angry. And then some other people may say, well, I've been doing yoga for 20 years, but still very easily I get angry. And I think most people, anyhow, sometimes you get a little angry. So it's good to know about it. And well, if you don't want to make war, then you have to cultivate peace. So everything which you do in yoga in a way is cultivating peace. So definitely yoga will help you to be less angry. That's very obvious. But sometimes it pays to better understand anger and to learn ways to work with it very specifically in order to really get rid of it. And so that is the idea of today. How can we really get rid of anger? How can we stop being angry for the rest of our lives? Is that possible? Is that advisable? All these things we will look into. And how to do it without suppressing the anger and things like that. So, but the first thing to understand is that if you don't want to be angry, then you have to be peaceful. And but that actually does not mean that you no longer have to fight. War can still happen. There can still be a fight which you feel you have to fight, but you can fight without getting angry about it. So the Bhagavad Gita, I think many people have heard about it. It's like the most famous Hindu scripture. And there you have one conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, which is maybe the most known conversation in Hindu scripture. And it is precisely about this subject. Now, for the people who don't know, it is about a fight between two big families, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And so these families are actually quite interlinked. And they have many friends, both families having the same friends, so these friends have to choose sides. So it's a big problem. They have to go to war because one of the families did some rather bad things. But people don't really want to go to war. And so Arjuna, he is like the biggest hero, you could say, of the camp of the Pandavas. He is telling to Krishna, I don't want to fight. Because these are all relatives, these are all friends. I don't want to fight. Why should I do this, even though they have done these wrong things? And then it is Krishna who, surprisingly in a way, tells him, no, you have to fight. It is your job to fight. It is your dharma to fight. Injustice cannot just be ignored. You have to fight injustice. If you think it is your role to fight a particular kind of injustice, then that is what you have to do. But you don't have to be angry about it. You don't have to be feeling responsible for it even. You have to do it because you feel it is your job to do it, but not get so much personally involved in it. You have to play it rather than really feel hatred or feel anger at your opponent, not to call them then enemies. No? They are your opponents in a certain game which is going on in life, in society maybe in your family or maybe in your job or some other thing. And you feel, okay, I have to change something here because it is not right. And okay, you can still do it, but that does not mean you have to become angry. So this is an important thing, because if you are not understanding this, then stopping anger will mean that you become like a little stupid. No? Everybody will make abuse of you. They will eat you alive. No? And you will also not protect others, which may be less strong than you and less able to defend themselves, and which you should defend because you are near to them and are able to defend them. So all these things you can still do, you can still fight, but you don't have to be angry about it. So that's the basic idea. So anger is a particular rasa, a particular emotional flavor, a particular kind of emotion. And so we'll look a little bit at the sheet here, what this Anger Rasa is. I think you all had that. So the bhavas of the rasa are the ways in which this rasa expresses itself in particular emotions. Like somebody will be a little bit irritated, and then you will tell that person, oh, okay, you don't have to be angry. And then he will say, I am not angry, I am only a little bit irritated. So we find that this is different, but actually it is also the same. Sure, there is a difference between real anger and a little bit of irritation, but it is the same rasa. No? So this anger rasa manifests in a number of forms, no? Like irritation, up to real fury, no? Up to stress. Though stress is already a little bit like a special kind of emotion which involves anger but also involves fear. If you are stressed in your job, then you are continuously like fluctuating between both. And one moment you are a little bit irritated because everybody is expecting a lot from you and putting a lot of pressure on you. And on the other side, you are a little bit afraid that you're not going to be able to live up to this expectation. No? So you are a little bit like stressed. So stress is like a mixture of the rasas of anger and fear. And likewise, jealousy also is anger, but jealousy also, of course, has to do with love and also has to do with fear. So some emotional states really are mixtures of rasas and can have then like the anger rasa inside of them, even though they are not pure. And that is an important understanding because it means that with a little irritation, you can more or less deal in the same way as you would with, big anger, but you cannot deal in the same way with stress or with jealousy because they have mixtures of anger, and so it will work differently. And in anger, particular, there is the fire element. No? If you are angry, you are on fire, then the fire element in your body will very much increase. You will feel more hot also. You will become red in the face. You will become completely rigid. And so this fire element will be there. And people who already have this fire element more dominantly in their biochemistry, usually called pitta people, no? Pitta dosha, they will more easily become angry than other people. So for them it will be more difficult class than for some others who don't have this fire element so strongly inside of them. But of course it can come to everybody. And then you will also feel, oh, I'm very hot. No? And then very easy, one of the things to do is to cool down. If you drink then some water, or maybe a lot of water, then you will put out that fire. And immediately your anger will not have any more a basis in your body chemistry, and you will be able to change it into another mood, deal with it or whatever in a more peaceful manner. So understanding this biochemical basis is quite important, and also important to understand that if you maintain anger for a long time, which some people do, some people are angry maybe for months or years, or even just for 2 weeks. Like some good friend does something really bad, and for 2 weeks you are continuously in your mind thinking about it, talking about to yourself about it, talking about it to other people, and having this anger, then you have to be very careful, because at that moment you are making your biochemistry very acidic. If the pitta is dominant, then your body chemistry becomes acidic, and you are going to make yourself ill, or illness can be the result of it. And definitely if it's longer, if it's months or years, if anger becomes like a habit, then you will develop easily blood pressure problems, arteriosclerosis. You will be more likely to have a heart attack. You can have skin irritations, boils, all these things. Joint problems. Your joints will become more stiff. Your nerves will become dried out and then react very nervously. No? So many things can be there if you are angered for a long time. So already for that reason also it's very good to try to stay out of it. It's also very bad for your eyes, actually. It dries out your eyes, and because the liquid there is really needed to keep your eyes healthy, it will damage your eyesight. So this is good to know. So like drinking water is a good way, but don't cool yourself down too much. I explained that also in the class on yoga and Ayurveda. if you're going to take a really cold shower, then your body is going to feel, oh, it's so cold, I have to produce more heat. So you will create an opposite reaction in yourself. So you more take like a lukewarm shower, just to cool down, but not too much. Also, you don't drink water with a lot of ice or something. That's not needed. Just water will do. Too much cold is then also not good. Coca-Cola is also not good. Coca-Cola is not good because it has a lot of sugar and a lot of acid. And sugar and acid are very easily burning. So you're adding more combustible to the fire, and it will not help. It will cool you down very shortly, and then afterwards a heat response will come because of all that sugar in your blood. And definitely the worst thing to do is alcohol. And you can also see that people who have maybe been like harboring some anger inside, then they have a drink, and then it comes out. Before they were not saying anything, they were just talking about it to themselves, and then they have a drink, and then it comes out. Right? So anger is fire. Fire, you don't put alcohol to put out the fire. That's a crazy thing. You might as well put oil. So to avoid then alcohol, if you're having a little difficult phase, it's a good idea. And in very extreme cases, and I'm talking about people with chronic anger, like years of anger, then fasting is also good. It is not good if you say, oh, I'm feeling a little anger today, let's not eat. That's not good. Because the first response of your body to not getting any food will be irritation. Anybody who has done some fasting knows that the first day is really like hard. Because your body starts being stressed about not getting any food and will produce adrenaline and all sorts of things so that you are ready to go hunting. It comes from a long time back, these systems, and go find food. So in that phase, you will definitely not have an easier time to control your anger. But if you have a really long story, a long history of anger, then fasting for 3 days or 4 days can really help you to break that anger, because these people are so much into it, they can't get out of it. They wake up in the morning, it's like that. It's completely their body chemistry, their neural patterns in their brain, everything, their whole energy is red hot with anger, and they cannot get rid of it. So in that case, not to eat for 3 or 4 days, which is not so easy, but also not so difficult. Actually, from the second day onwards, it becomes quite easy, because then your stomach already has shrunk and is not hurting anymore. So then you just maybe feel a little bit lightheaded and not a big issue. And so then, after 3 or 4 days, these people will lose their anger because there's no more fuel. There's no more fuel for this fire, so this fire has to go out. So these are some of the things that can be used. Other thing also, for example, is to drink water in a silver cup. Silver attracts lunar energy. Lunar energy is extremely cooling, extremely soothing. To put this cup with water in the evening outside on the windowsill or something, so that it can directly catch the moonlight, is even more effective. But okay, just using it as a regular drinking cup is very good. And in that way I can tell a little story about my teacher, who when he was a young man got married, and on his marriage his new mother-in-law gave him a silver cup and a silver plate and silver spoon and knife and everything to eat. And so he was feeling very he was a rich man, so he was feeling now, wow, I'm a big man now, I have all this. And she said, yes, and you have to promise me that always you will drink from this cup and eat on this plate. And he said, sure, mother, and that's now also his mother, I will do that. And only much later, many years later, she told him, well, actually, I also had another little plan there, because as I saw that as a young man, you were quite fiery, quite hot, and I was a little scared for my little girl who was going to marry you, that you would be very angry with her whenever she was doing some little mistake. So I thought I have to do something, and I gave you this silverware and this silver cup so that you would every day cool yourself down and there would be no problem for my girl. So this is a little bit how this works, and a silver cup may seem like something very expensive, but actually in India, for us, it's really not expensive. So if ever you go there, you find some silver shop and you buy it for 10 euros or 20 euros, something in between. So that's really not so much money. And so wearing silver, also very good. And pearls. Pearls are fantastic for anger. Pearls, yes. Pearl is very special. If you put like a pearl mala on your neck, it will not become hot. Most stones that you put there, after some time when they are on your skin, you feel them, they are also warm like you are. Pearls not. Pearls will always remain cool, and you will really feel always this coolness here, and this will stop the anger from moving upwards to your brain. It's quite amazing how it works. And of course, for men it is not so very fashionable to wear pearls, but the idea anyhow is that you wear it on your skin, so you can put it underneath your clothes, and nobody will see it, and you will be peace incarnated just because you're wearing these pearls. So pearls are a good idea, easy also and cheap to buy in India, and actually not so difficult usually to find also here, because many ladies used to wear pearls in the old days. No? And now this is no longer very fashionable even for ladies. So many pearl necklaces are still lying there somewhere, forgotten in a cupboard, maybe inherited from the grandmother or something like that, and nobody is using it. So if you find one like that, remember what I said and take it, and whenever you feel angry, at least put it on. It will really help quite a lot. And so many things are there. Cardamom seeds are quite cooling. Yogurt is quite cooling. And lemons or limes also quite cooling. Other acidic things not, like vinegar is not cooling. Vinegar is heating. Lemons are actually quite special, that they are sour but also cooling, like yogurt. But most things which are sour are actually heating. So this is a little exception. If in summer you are making a salad, you also want it to be a little bit like cooling. So adding some lemon juice will make it much more cooling than adding vinegar. So, and adding yogurt also. So anyway, this is a little bit how to work on the level of the body, just so that your anger does not have so much of a basis to work with. This can just help to reduce the interaction between your mind and your body. And this is not unimportant. I mean, like, let's say in the morning you have a fight with your wife or your husband. Okay, nothing wrong. I mean, you go to work, and then at work somebody is doing something wrong, maybe a little thing, but you become very, very angry. And you are surprised yourself that you became so angry because of what this person did, because it was only a small thing. But actually the reason is that this anger was still in your body from the fight that you had with your partner. And maybe 2 hours later it was still there. And so a little spark was all that was needed to make it go up very fast. So to understand this means that whenever you have been angry, remember to cool down. Just physically cool down. And then, okay, you can again move forward more peacefully. Otherwise, chances that again you will be fired up very easily. So then here you also see that the guna, so the energy is rajasic. This is quite logical. Rajas means it is very energetic, it's very much moving, it's very active. And the main kosha, the main body you could say, is the ego. And this is very clear in anger. A person who is angry always talks me. I don't want this, I want that. So I. This ego then becomes most dominant. This is the emotion in which the ego is very strong. And help here can be gotten from Rudra. Rudra is a form of Shiva. And it's a little strange in a way because it is a very angry Shiva. But normally Shiva is very peaceful. But so he is very angry because his peace is disturbed. So a little lesson is there also that, if you want to guard your peace, you have to be a little bit forceful sometimes about it. Certainly towards yourself. Sometimes we can be a little bit too much attached to our anger, too much attached to our ego, too much attached to whatever somebody else did, some mistake they made, and we make a big thing out of it. So at some point you really have to tell yourself, stop. You have to be a little bit like a warrior of peace. Rudra is like a warrior of peace. He fights for peace, which is a little strange, but sometimes you also need that. And so in traditional Hindu view, to then pray to Rudra or Shiva in general, of course, will help also to reduce the anger. And also Durga. Durga, I don't know if that rings a bell to you, but she is a lady with many, many arms and many, many weapons, like usually 10 arms, each holding a particular weapon. And so she was created by all the gods to defeat the demon of anger. And all the gods gave the best of themselves to her as a weapon to defeat the anger, which basically means that all the spiritual attitudes, say peace or forgiveness, generosity, all these things help to reduce anger. So this is another deity that is then often used or prayed to in case you have a problem with anger or you have a problem with an angry person. That is also possible. So, and then we see here the friendly rasas and the enemy rasas. So, the only friend that anger has is fear. Anger and fear are very strongly related. We even have that here in modern psychology. They call it the fight-flee response. Like an animal also. It is cornered. Either it will fight, either it will run away. But it can shift very easily between the two of them. And that is also true for us. A lot of anger is defense. It is self-defense. You are afraid if you are not going to show anger, if you are not going to hit back, that whatever person was doing something wrong will do it again. So a lot of anger is about that also. It's about protecting yourself, reacting out of tune, becoming a little bit crazy, just so that the other one doesn't dare to do it again. Out of fear that the other one would do it again, out of fear that you will be taken for granted and that everybody will make abuse of you. So their anger and fear are very strongly related. And in a way, if you want to work with anger, you also have to work with your fear. You can't really stop that because they are friends. If you just work with the anger, but a lot of fear is still there, then the fear will continuously trigger the anger. So it's a little difficult to work only with anger. You need a little attention to fear, but not in the sense that you really have to get completely rid of fear. That is a different thing, and it's actually a lot more difficult than getting rid of anger. Getting rid of anger is child's play compared to getting rid of fear. That is really much, much more difficult. I was thinking, could you close that door? Maybe it will help a little bit reducing the sound. Not that it is making me angry, but it's just easier for talking. Right. And then we have 3 enemies of anger. So enemies means that they will beat the anger, they will defeat the anger, they will counter the anger. So they are joy, love, and wonder. Joy, which basically means also humor, making fun of it, is a very good way to reduce anger in yourself. It's not a very good way to reduce anger in other people. If somebody is angry and you start making fun of them, they are only going to get more angry, right? Only if it is just a little thing and, he's just getting a little irritated and you are good friends and you make a joke about it and he laughs about it and okay, then all right. But most of the time not. But for yourself, it is really the best way to do it in the sense that joy, the feeling of joy, also is fire dominated. So to shift from anger to joy is very, very easy because you don't have to change your biochemistry because of it. To go from anger to love, love is water dominated. That's very difficult. That will require some time. You can't just do that in a second. But you can shift in a second from anger to laughing very easily. And the people, the Pitta people especially, who have this fiery nature, are also known like that. You will know them, the people who are a little bit reddish in skin color, easily angered, but also laughing with a big laugh and easily laughing, right? So this is the same basic energy which manifests in either a very funny way or in a very annoying way. And so with yourself, if you can see yourself becoming angry and then laugh at yourself because of it, if you can start doing that, then it will go very fast. Because it's not nice to be angry. It's a lot more nice to be happy and joyful and see the fun of it. So it's very easy to make this shift. Especially if the cause of your anger is also not so very big. But okay, how many very big causes of anger do you have in a year? Not so many. Sometimes maybe you are in a difficult situation when there is a lot. Okay, that is possible. But apart from that, it's just now and then something happens which makes you angry, and usually it's not even very, very important. But we get attached to it, we get into it, just laugh at it. Just laugh at yourself. All good jokes are about the ego. This is very important to understand. All jokes are about the ego. If you see a man walking and he is stumbling, then this is actually not so very funny. You may be more like feeling, oh, the guy is going to hurt himself. But if the guy is walking like that, like a big man and feeling very strong, and then stumbles, then everybody will laugh. Because the ego is shown to be an illusion. So if you want to laugh, you have to laugh at the ego, and to laugh at the ego is the best way to reduce the anger, because anger is based on the ego. Anger is so ego-dominated. If you take the ego away, anger cannot stay. It's like the same thing. If you take the fire away, anger also cannot stay. So this is a very good way to work with it. And then, if the anger is in another person, the best rasa is love. Because a person who is angry really wants more respect, really wants to be loved, really feels that you're not taking him into account. So then to say sorry, whatever happened, I did it, okay, some reason, some excuse is there, but I really do love you, I really do respect you, I didn't want to do that to you, I didn't think about it, or I'm stupid, or whatever, but to shower your love over the other person is the best way to get the other person to forget about the anger. And this will not go like that. Slowly, the anger will come down because of the water of the love, will put it out slowly, and then at some point it will, embrace and maybe make up sex or something, or whatever, or just, be together again, and the mood will be changed, and the war will be over, and then again there will be peace and love and everything. So this is a good way. And then the third one who is mentioned here is the rasa of wonder, of surprise, and this can also work with another person, but not so easy, I would say. But it works easily also because wonder is also fire dominated. So biochemically speaking, to go from anger to wonder is not so difficult. And like with love, it will very much reduce the ego. Because if you are surprised, if you are in wonder of what is happening, then your ego is very small because you don't understand what's happening. That's why you are surprised. Something happens you didn't expect. Oh, what's happening? So your ego goes down. So then the anger is reduced. But in a practical sense, you could say that, well, for example, my teacher, he gave one example. There's like a couple fighting, and especially the man is very, very angry. And the lady says, if you don't stop being angry right now, I will kill myself by eating sugar. What are you saying, Kill yourself by eating sugar. How are you going to do that? You have to really eat an awful lot of sugar. So temporarily the guy is wondering, what is she saying? And because of it, his ego goes down and his anger goes down. And the shift is very rapid because the fire element is still there. So, and then, okay, love on top of it, and, yeah. So this is a little bit like how you can work with different little theaters you can play and make the mood in the other person change. And it's really quite efficient. If you become a little bit more aware of it, it will become like second nature, and people will become angry with you, but very easily you will turn their anger into something else. Just play a little bit with them actually, but yes, of course. They only listen to themselves, they only shout, they are full of me. As I said, the ego is the most dominant, so then they don't listen. So I'm not saying it's always that easy. No? You can throw a bucket of water on them. Also, that's always working, but it's also not guaranteed. It makes them maybe also very angry. But if you have an angry dog, it will work. I still forgot to say breath also, of course. Oxygen is also needed for the fire. So if you reduce your breathing rate, if you keep your breathing rate at a relatively low pace, breathe deeply but not too fast, that will also very much help to reduce anger. And like I said last time, I think, if you stop breath, then mind will stop. Then likewise you can say, if you stop breath, then anger will stop. So if you really stop breathing, if you really hold your breath, then your anger will go down. Because very rapidly the fire will no longer have any oxygen. And so if that is a practice which you already know how to do, if you've been doing lots of pranayama, then you can easily stop breathing for 1 minute, then very easy way to get rid of the anger. And then work with it. No? I'm not saying get rid of it and completely in that way forget about whatever happened, but at least get the energy down, get the mood a little bit more calm, so that you can work with it in a more constructive way. Anger is very destructive. You hit somebody, or you hurt them in an emotional way. No? So if you want to keep the relationship, then better first a little bit cool down, and then maybe talk about whatever is going wrong, no? in a more peaceful way. So now, all I've been saying now are little games, little tricks, but now we come a little bit more to the essence of what anger really is and where it really comes from. And actually you can say that all anger comes from unfulfilled expectation. And I can make a very simple example that will make it clear. If every day when you go to work with your car, you are in a traffic jam, this is not going to make you irritated. Because you know it's going to happen every day. It's the same thing. And maybe you are used to putting on the radio or something and just spend that half hour there in a traffic jam. Okay, nothing wrong. But many people get irritated when an unexpected traffic jam comes. They're going somewhere, they don't expect any traffic jam, and just coming around the corner, oh God, I'm not going to say it, but so they become irritated, angry. I mean, it depends on the person. Some people also will say, okay, no problem. But the difference there is quite clear. In one case, it was expected. In the other case, it was not expected, and because it still happened, they become angry. But of course, unexpected traffic jams also happen. So somehow you should always expect them to happen, in the sense that whenever you take the car somewhere, you know it's going to happen. So if you live like that, if you expect nothing and everything, then anger will go down. That is the key element. If you can stop what you expect from life, then very easily anger will go down. So this is much more on the level of your ego, on the level of how you look at life, how you live your life. Whenever you see yourself expecting something, better say, okay, let's not expect it. Maybe hope it. But even then, hope is nothing much better than expectation in a disguise. You are hoping this will happen. Maybe you buy a lottery ticket and you hope you're going to win €1 million or something. But in that hope, there is still a little bit of expectation that it will happen. You see it in front of your eyes, more or less, how you're going to get this €1 million. And so then, nothing there. Oh. little irritated you get. No? So, you cannot expect anything. I mean, you just have to look back in your life. Whatever happened, all these things happened, which you did not expect. Okay, some things you may have planned, some things you may have expected, but a lot of things happened which you did not expect. Like most people find their job in a way they did not expect, or find their loved one in a way that they did not expect. There's so many things you don't expect and they still happen. So if you change your view on life and you don't expect much to happen or not to happen, then not so much anger will come. But of course, the people that you love the most are the people from whom you expect the most. So they can also make you the most angry. If somebody on the street whom you don't know tells you for some reason you are stupid, maybe a little anger will come, but you will not think about it 1 hour later. It's just a stupid guy, don't know him, whether he's crazy, whatever, But if somebody you know very well and love and have a relationship with tells you you are stupid, then this is going to come like, because you don't expect that person to say something like that. No? So from the people that are near and dear to us, we expect a lot more. And even there, you have to a little bit be careful. Because even the people that you know very well, you don't really know very well. And I can put it in a different way also. Think about the person that knows you the best from your whole life, maybe it's your mother or your partner or whoever. And then ask yourself, how well does this person know me? And you will find that, okay, this person may know a lot about you. Many things still, this person has no idea what is going on inside you. What has happened to you, and all these things. So even your dearest friend and partner and everything, they are strangers to you. Maybe less than other people, but still they are strangers to you. So what are you going to expect? And they can also change. Like you don't expect them to call you stupid every day, sure. But maybe one day they are having a bad day. And they are acting out of, how you say that, out of tune, not normal. They're a little bit like over the edge, and they call you stupid. Then you have to say, okay, I didn't expect it, but okay, yes, sure, what is there to expect? Tomorrow, she'll be okay again, and okay. No? That's all not so easy, no? That part. That really requires work, no? To stop expecting things from people, but really, you don't even know yourself. How often do you surprise yourself? It's very often that, something happens and you think, oh, I did this. Or I was able to do that. Or, in a positive sense or in a negative sense, you can surprise yourself. So you don't even know yourself. You can't even expect anything from yourself. So what are you going to expect from other people? So if you get up in the morning and you expect nothing, if you meet a person and you expect nothing, if you do something and you expect nothing to come from it, then these problems of anger will very fundamentally go. Once you then a little bit work with that, and you have this habit, or maybe you already have it, of not often being angry, then you get also more attached to not being angry. And you get more understanding about, like, say, the cost of anger. Like, if somebody steals 50 euros from you, like a good friend, steals 50 euros, how long are you going to be angry? If it's a good friend, you might be angry for a week, or a couple of days at least. No? You don't expect that from a good friend. You steal money out of your pocket. No? But if I would ask you, okay, I give you 50 euros. If for 1 week you are angry, nobody here will do it. That's too cheap. You maybe want 500 euros for that. Because being angry is an unhappy feeling. Nobody says, okay, we have a holiday, let's be angry for a week, great fun, No, it's very, it tears you up inside. It's very destructive. It's not a nice feeling at all. So as you develop, that actually becomes so important. There is a little problem, and you understand that if you're going to get angry about it, this problem is only going to become bigger. And there are other ways to deal with it rather than becoming angry. So if you lose 50 euros, why spend, let's say, 1 day in anger? Because how much money is that worth? I mean, if you put it in money. So in that way, that is also like how it very much happened for me. After some time, all this theory was not so important anymore. I just didn't want to get angry anymore. I just felt, what's the use? I wanted to stay out of it. So gradually this becomes like that. But it's of course very essential also. to understand that everything that we want is to be happy. Everything that we do, we want it for being happy. So why get unhappy? If you can avoid it, if you can, have that mastery, have that control, which is something you can learn, and we'll talk more about it, to do it. Also understanding that in anger, there is the, let's say, fierce person who feels disrespected, but there's also the little poor me ego, which feels disrespected, and then feels anger is necessary to, do something about it. And that is maybe less there if you are angry like in a short time, in a like fiery way, but it's very much there when you are angry on longer term. If something happens and you don't really talk about it, but you keep it inside for a long time, it's burning there, and the poor me ego is keeping it alive. It's then not the ego who wants revenge, who wants to hit back. It's the ego says, oh, look at me, they did all these bad things to me. And that, and you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, why it is bad and so on, inside of you. That is another type of ego, which may be looking less like the ego, but is also the ego. That is what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. He calls that the pain body. It's also an attachment. You are attached to this anger because it gives you a certain identity. The ego is always trying to get identity. And if you are feeling very good and very rich and very beautiful, then you will attach to that. But if you're not feeling very good and not very rich and not very beautiful, then you're going to attach to all your problems. And you say, oh, I'm important because they did this to me, and I'm important because I don't have any money, and I'm important because I'm very ill, and all these things. So that's also the ego. It's another form of the ego, but very much also the ego, and maybe even more persistent than that other ego. More easily undetected, more easily behind the scene, behind the curtain, working inside of you. So also understanding that is important if you want to fight the anger. And so you have to detach from your anger consciously. You have to really understand this, see this attachment game, and drop it, and let it go, and find another way. And then so we have to come to the question, okay, then how? How can we actually do that? And there is one fantastic example, which is Mahatma Gandhi, very well known. And so he was an Indian person. At some time he was in South Africa, where there was still the apartheid, the very much like racist system. And he was seeing that. And he was seeing actually there the same thing as he was seeing in India, but in a more extreme way. Because also in India the British were like oppressing the people, but not in such an extent as it was happening in South Africa. So he became very aware of that. And then one day he went to take a train, and in this train there was some part which was only for white people, and then some part was for colored people. So he went into the part for white people only, and they threw him out. They threw him off the train. At that moment he became very angry, and he realized, oh, this cannot be. So I need a way to work with this. I cannot let this injustice be. I have to do something about it. But I also cannot be angry, because he was a householder yogi. He cannot, be angry all the time. This is not possible for him. No? If you are angry, you can't meditate. If you are angry, how are you going to sing your morning prayers to God? It's not possible. No? So for him, there was a little dilemma, and he said, okay, I will have two weapons to do this fight. And he wanted to dedicate his whole life to this fight, and that's also what he did. And his two weapons were Satya and Ahimsa. Satya means truth, and Ahimsa means non-violence. So non-violence actually is what we know most of him. In a way, he is the father of non-violent resistance. After him, many other movements came that in a peaceful way demonstrated and did all sorts of things to change something in society. This was something new that he brought. But Satya is often forgotten, but Satya is also, of course, very important. To stand for the truth, not to make any compromises, not to be weak, Not to shut your mouth. If you see something which is wrong, okay, say it, but without violence. Without violence in words, deeds, or thoughts. And in that, his life story is so fantastic, because even though he was like fighting the British in every level he could, he never hated them. And he always made sure that the people around him would never say bad things about the British. They would say bad things about what the British were doing. Sure, that they could do very strongly. But never put it, like on the person, never attack the person, always be loving and kind and so on, but very clearly saying, okay, you're a very nice person, but this is wrong, and this has to change. And so gradually he could make it that finally India became independent. He could do it, but he did not allow or try to stop his followers from using any violence. And whenever they would, because some Indian people really became upset with the situation and there would be fights in the streets and all that, then he would fast. And he would say, I'm fasting, I'm not eating until the violence stops. And because everybody loved him so very much, then yes, the fighting stopped. And again, there could be a negotiation, and finally he got what he wanted. So this is a very, very great example. Gandhi, Satya and Ahimsa. So this is how you can do it. You are straightforward. Straightforward is very important. If you feel that you are maybe a little bit a shy person, not really so good at expressing your idea, not really so good at defending yourself, then I don't suggest that you try very much to reduce your anger. Because then very often you will need this anger to be straightforward. Many people are like that. They have to bottle it up for a long time until they burst, and then finally they say what they like or don't like or want or not want or are clear about it. So if you are there, then okay, first work that out. First become more confident, more straightforward. This is then the first thing to do. And if you need a little anger for that, okay, no problem. To really get the anger down, you need to be straightforward, naturally by yourself, and not be afraid to give your opinion or defend your rights or the rights of anybody else or whatever. It is very essential to be clear with other people about what you want and what you don't want. You have to very clearly set your boundaries and also make it very clear to others what will happen if they cross that boundary. Like, I started doing this sadhana a long time back, so I have to really go through all my relationships and make sure everything there is clear. Otherwise, causes for anger will come. Like even with my clients. Some clients, they think that paying on time is not really needed. No? They think that, well, as long as they keep the money on their bank account, it's giving them interest, and as long as you're not, calling them and becoming angry about it, they don't pay. Yeah, many companies like that. So I had to change that. So how to work with that is then, instead of calling them and being angry, you just call them and you tell them, well, you didn't really yet pay this invoice, maybe you didn't get it. It's possible that there's a mistake somewhere or something, or no, they have it, so okay, why did you not pay it? Well, yeah, okay, you didn't have the time, or whatever excuse they're coming up. And then you have to say, well, or what I did in any case was, well, please pay it rapidly because I need money, and if you don't, then I have to stop working on, your project, your website, or whatever it is I was doing for them, and work for somebody else who can pay me immediately. And then immediately they start paying. If they need you to work on that website, they'll start paying. So this is how to work in your relationships. If there is a relationship, then both have a need for each other. Whether it is a business relationship or a love relationship or any kind of relationship, there's always some exchange, some interaction, and both parties need each other. So if you are saying to a person, okay, this is the line, please don't cross it. This is what I need, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is the rule. And if then they cross it, okay, you can still be forgiving and say, oh, didn't you not see, you're crossing the line. Next time, this and this will be the consequence. And ultimately, you have to be able to, or be willing to break the relationship. And most of the time you won't have to. Just threatening to do it will be very clear. You can say, okay, I like you, I love you, we are good together and so on, and fantastic, but these are the rules. If you don't respect those rules, then I cannot work with you. Then, no hard feelings, you just go somewhere else. And I'll find somebody else, and that's how to do it. And if the relationship really actually means something, then that will be enough. And the other person will respect your boundaries very easily, and you will have no more cause for anger. And this is really what I can say, and what was quite surprising when I started working with this so many years ago, that after some time I realized that not only I had changed in how I was dealing with anger, but very much my relationships had changed, and people were really behaving very nicely with me. Even if they sometimes were still behaving very not nicely with other people, But towards me, somehow, by being just very clear, and making it very clear that if they cross the line, the relationship depends on it, then they stop. And then some you may lose. Some people are like that, they can't do it. They always want to take more and more and more. And also, if you're not getting angry about it, they feel you're not serious about it. This is a little problem that you have. If you're not angry with people when they do something wrong, then they think, well, he said he doesn't like me to do that, but apparently he does. Because he's not getting angry when I'm anyhow doing it. So with those people, you have to be very clear. Okay, you do it once more and, you're out. It's finished. I'm done. And you don't have to be angry about that. You can do that in a very peaceful and gentle manner, but firm, and be willing to do it. Be willing to do it. And I lost some friends like that. Some friends just couldn't do it. I said, okay, go off. Many friends I have, so no problem. And so you have to a little bit in that way change your relationships, and sometimes you also may have to fake some anger. That is also my experience. Like with children. Children can be so much into their whatever they are doing, they don't listen. And has such an effect on them. You just using this angry sound, then they become afraid, and then they listen. Like my son, he would easily maybe run over the street and get hit by a car. Not anymore now, he's a bit older, but when he was younger, at that time you maybe have to fake a little bit of anger. When somebody just doesn't understand this way of being, is whether as a child or as an adult, a little bit too primitive to follow this sort of reasoning, and who only can respond if you show the anger. Then okay, fake it. You don't overdo it, because if you start shouting or something like that, then this is going to change also your biochemistry and going to bring a little bit more anger inside you anyhow. So if you do it fast. Meaning, do it short, but also do it well in advance of really getting angry. Like with children, that's very, very good. You see they are misbehaving, okay, just you're not angry at all, you're actually laughing inside at what they are doing, but if I don't react now, then 5 minutes later I'm going to have to be really angry because it's running out of control. So you have to, in advance, a little bit make it clear, stop, and then, okay, then it stops. So with children, if you're raising children, it's really not so easy to do it without anger, but it's possible. And it's very important then, also with adults, of course, if you have shown a little bit of anger, if you have faked a little bit of anger, then afterwards again make peace. No? When they say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again or whatever. Okay, now very nice, you want some ice cream? So this...
You can start with the ice cream sometimes.
Yes. So something like that, make peace, bring the love back. That is good, but sometimes you may have to fake it. And even with some adults, you can't avoid. Maybe they are in work, like in work relationship, you can't fire your colleagues. No? Only your boss can do that. So sometimes some person may be there who just won't take no for an answer unless it is said in anger. So then, okay, fake it. Also no problem. No? but don't get involved. Stay out of it yourself, and especially get rid of it as fast as possible afterwards. Once that little fire maybe came out, have some water and cool down. Forget about it, but put it out of your mind. Don't stay attached. Because if you don't, then the chance that you are going to suppress the emotion is going to be too strong. In the sense that I don't want people to think, oh, now I'm very spiritual, so I should never be angry and always be nice and gentle, but actually inside I am burning, but I'm not gonna... No. Please, it's very unhealthy. It's like one of the most unhealthy things to do. To keep the anger inside, and there it is working. Suppressing it, not expressing it, is a very bad thing. If you cannot express your opinion, then express it in anger. Okay, that's a little bit like what anger is for. But better even if you can express yourself without getting angry. Well in advance. So this is important. Now, when we're talking about suppression of emotions, there's some confusion that people think that you can suppress your emotion into your subconscious mind so that you are completely unaware of it. But this is actually untrue. The only thing you can suppress in your subconscious is memory. So, for example, you have a child, and in childhood something really bad happened, where the child got very afraid, and it became so big that it could not handle it, and it pushed it deep down in the subconscious mind and forgot about it completely. But that is not the emotion which is put inside. That is just the memory, because the emotion will still be there. That child, maybe as an adult, will discover he is fearful, always, very uncertain of himself, because deep down there is still this buried memory linked to that emotion. So the emotion, if you are suppressing the emotion, it just means you are not expressing it, but it is still very much inside you, working. And I don't mean inside in your subconscious, but inside in your thoughts, in your feelings about situations and things. So if I say you should not suppress your emotions, it means either express it or really get rid of it. Really work with it in such a way that you get rid of it. And the most difficult thing in case of anger is to forgive. Something happened, somebody did something wrong. Okay. You have to learn how to forgive. So this is another subject, forgiveness. Now, to really understand it, you should all now a little bit think about something you did wrong. In your life, we all did do things wrong, right? Everybody makes mistakes. You just remember what you did wrong. You don't have to tell it. And now you ask yourself, did I want to do that or not? Did I want to do that really bad thing or not? And you will find you did not want to do it. You just did not see any alternative. So you may have been doing it very consciously, but at that time you thought it was the best thing to do. This is true for everybody. This is always like that. Nobody is a demon. Nobody is bad. Nobody does bad because they want to do bad. They're only doing bad things for two reasons: ignorance or lack of control. Either they're just not understanding properly what should be done, having the wrong idea about it, or they know what should be done, but somehow or other they could not make themselves do it, and they did something else because they don't have control over themselves. These are the two reasons. So I'll explain it because it's a difficult subject. I'll explain it with an example of my cats. So I have 4 cats, and I'm used to giving them some food, special like treat in the evening around 5 or something. And so whenever in the afternoon I come in the kitchen, they start, walking around and making sound and maybe even like walking in front of me so that I almost fall over them, so that I remember to give them the food. Now, in the case of the cats, because this goes on every day, yeah, it's a little irritating, you could say, no? Because at that moment maybe I have to start cooking or I have to do this and that, and I have not forgotten, but I first want to do something else, but they are there and they just don't let me. Yeah? So then it's easy to forgive, because with the cats you can think, oh well, they don't understand. I usually give this food around 5, but they can't read the clock, so they don't understand. So they are ignorant. Yeah? This is the first reason why we find it easy to forgive them, because they are ignorant. No? They just think it is time. But then, okay, I can say, well, this has been going on for such a long time. They can be cats, but they are not that stupid that to think that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon it is already 5 o'clock. No, they don't read the clock, but they have some clock inside, some biological clock. They know more or less what time it is. They know it is too early, and still they do it, even at 3 o'clock when I come into the kitchen. So then I have found the second reason, which is also not so difficult to forgive. They know it is not yet time, but they cannot stop themselves from trying to get it already. They have been maybe thinking about it since the morning, yeah, about this food. And so they see me and they think, oh, no. And they, try. So they have no control. Either they don't understand or they have no control. And truly with people, this is just a sin. Think, a friend of you maybe like visits you in your house, you do a nice chat and everything, and then he goes, and afterwards you look in your wallet, and there was maybe like 200 euros there, and it is gone. And nobody else came in the house, so he must have taken it. Of bad thing. But then you have to think to yourself, why did he do that? Why did he do it? Obviously because he thought it was the best thing to do. That's very obvious. Why else would you do something if you don't think it is the best thing to do? For you. He must have needed that money. He must have needed that money so badly that he thought that taking it was better than, like losing me as a friend. Which is of course the consequence. So somehow he got this like strange thinking in his mind, stupid thinking in his mind, that, there was no alternative. He could have just asked me. If he needed that money, maybe, he's a gambler or something and he needs to pay some criminal some money back and thinks they're going to kill me if they don't, so I'm going to steal it. No, he could just have asked it. And if he would have explained it, I would have probably given it to him. No? Because he's a friend. But he didn't because, well, maybe he was ashamed about it. So, and then we touch on the other thing. Maybe he knew that it wasn't the right thing to do, but still couldn't stop himself from doing it because of some feeling, some other, more subconscious thing, some shame or something, and it just happened. So, in that way, even the worst criminal, and it's a little difficult to understand, thinks he is doing the right thing. Even though you can say he's crazy, sure, to think that. But even the worst criminal thinks he is doing the right thing. He knows it is morally wrong what he is doing. Sure, otherwise it's really stupid. No? Most criminals, when they break into a house, they know this is not something to be done. But they still have some story about it. They still have something in their mind that tells them, okay, it's probably wrong to just steal people's money because they have to work hard for it, and I, take it. And but okay, whatever excuse is there in their mind, they have some story. They have some story. And they believe this story to be right. Why would they do it if they believe it would be wrong for them to do it? Right? So I'm not thinking about right and wrong in the sense of morally right and wrong. They are thinking when they do it that it is the right thing to do for them. That they maybe have the right to do it because they think everybody is a thief. So they are just not admitting to it. At least I admit that I'm a thief. Some people like that exist. So, if you understand that, and especially, as I said, if you go into your own history, look at the things you've done wrong and why you did it, you will understand that you did not really want to do it. Even if you did it very consciously, even if very consciously you hurt somebody, which can happen, you still thought at that some time that that was what you had to do. Maybe you were feeling like you needed revenge, an eye for an eye, things like that. This is a very deep feeling which comes inside you, and you go a little bit crazy. So this actually you also get in a court case. No? If you have a criminal in court, then also they're going to look, okay, what was his childhood, and what was his background, and maybe he wasn't addicted, or maybe his psychiatric case, and can't think straight, and all these things. So they will have these same questions, but here we are actually asking a very different question and encountering the same subject. They are asking the question, should we punish him or not, and how much should we punish him? But when you're into trying to forgive, you're not asking how much should I punish him, you're just trying to forgive. So whenever somebody does something bad to you, and you feel that you cannot let go, that this is still going on in your mind, then you really have to sit, do a little whatever meditation that you can do to make yourself a little bit calm, and then look at that, what happened, and try to see what brought this person to do this thing, why it happened, and see that, yes, it was either stupidity or lack of control. It's one of both, and very often it's a combination of both. Very often both go together. And then it's more easy to forgive that person. That does not mean that you cannot hit him in the face next time you meet him. As I said, that doesn't mean you have to stop fighting, but you can fight without anger. If you think hitting him in the face is necessary, okay, that's a different thing. No? But if you hit him in the face because you're angry, then you're hitting him out of revenge. That's very different. Then you're not hitting him because you think that's a good thing to do. Then you're hitting him because you think you have the right to do it. Of course you have the right to do it. You have the right to be angry. Don't feel that I'm telling you you don't have the right to be angry. The only thing I'm telling you is that you also have the right not to be angry. You have the right not to get involved in all that nonsense and keep your inner peace. And the more you work with yoga, the more your inner peace will become your jewel, your treasure that you have worked for and that you have created and that you don't want to see destroyed. And anger can destroy it very, very rapidly. I said it also in the class on Yoga and Ayurveda, that the subtle chemicals that you are building through your meditation and your devotion and all these practices and your pranayams, the tejas and the ojas, they are destroyed very rapidly in anger. This is a big fire which burns everything. Also the good things are burned. So this is not very compatible with spiritual goals. So if you want to get rid of it, you have to learn to forgive. And on an even deeper level, there may be also old memories inside you that still are a little bit producing anger. So it is a good practice also. I'm not so much into this therapy thing of going back to your childhood, and I don't think it's terribly important, but it's not a bad idea to a little bit remember fights of the past. To just sit and think, oh yeah, 2 years ago this guy did that. To a little bit there, do the same process, go into it, look at it peacefully, see it for what it was, see that the guy was just either stupid or having no control, and forgive him. And then 5 years ago, oh yeah, that happened. And if you remember that something happened, but you don't feel anything about it, you don't feel any anger, then okay, no problem, drop it. But sometimes it can happen. You remember something from 10 years ago, and you haven't thought about it for maybe like 5 years, and it comes back and immediately your anger comes. So then that is something to clean out. That is something in your subconscious mind to work on, to clean out by going there, looking at it, and forgiving that person for whatever. Really dropping it, really letting it go. And that sort of practice will very much help you in your meditation practice. And not just with anger, of course, also with other emotions. So, nobody is a demon. In India they say, the gods they only give, the demons they only take, and Mr. Human Being, he gives and takes. This is natural, this just happens, that is how we are, And we can try to only give, but sometimes you also need a little bit to take. So even your best friend sometimes can do something which is not so pleasing. Forgive. We all make mistakes. It's very natural to make mistakes. We are growing, we are trying. And sometimes we get a little like this or like that and out of control and we do something stupid. It just happens. For the rest, if somebody really did something really bad, like really bad, then forgiveness may come more difficult and the feeling of revenge may be there. You really want to hit back. And, in that case, it just pays to more study the subject of karma. Because the feeling of revenge means that you want justice to be done, right? An eye for an eye. And so understand that an eye for an eye exists. Understand that karma is there and whatever bad thing is being done will have to be paid for, will be punished some way or other by life, and you don't have to do it. And I'm not really going to go into that subject because it's a very complicated subject about which I can talk for many hours. But basically it is so. So if you really feel, okay, this happened, maybe, I don't know, somebody killed your sister or something, something really bad, and you feel like I can't get rid of it, then studying karma, reincarnation, this whole subject will definitely help. And you will find more peace in it, knowing that some way or other, life takes care of itself in that way. And understanding also that your revenge only will bring bad karma on you. Because, as I said, whatever bad thing that person did, this person is innocent of it. This person did do it because he was either stupid or unable to control himself. And so he is innocent. Basically, everybody is innocent. Every criminal is innocent. So if you are hitting that person, then when you could say you are also innocent, yes, sure. But the act is not justified because that person did not know what he was doing. Like Jesus Christ was saying on the cross, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they are doing. Nobody knows what they are doing. We find it easy to forgive cats because they're animals, right? And we feel they are stupid or something, they don't understand some things. But the truth is we are all quite stupid. We are all quite out of control. We are all not so much in control as we think we are. And so in that way we're also quite innocent and we make mistakes. That's just it. So to go for revenge is not justified and you will pay for it. So don't. And try to understand. So, everything which I've now been saying can help you generally to reduce anger. Maybe some things will happen and you will remember some of the things I said in this class, or, that will be helpful, so that is very good. But you can also work with it more specifically in what is called Anger Sadhana, to do a specific exercise with anger, which is part of Rasa Sadhana. In the sense you can do it with many kinds of emotions, but anger is really good one to start with. If you don't have depression, which is another one, if that's not really so much of an issue, maybe we are all depressed sometimes, a little bit, but if depression is not a regular visitor in your heart, then anger is the first one to get rid of. And to do this sadhana with. And what this sadhana means is that for a particular period of time, you promise yourself that you will do your utmost best not to get into that emotion. So in the case of anger, you promise yourself you will do your best for one day, for example, not to become angry. As an exercise. And this works quite easily because, you can always be angry tomorrow. So whatever happens, you can tell yourself, okay, today, no, I'm going to be angry, drinking lots of water, I'm not going to think about it, I'm going to drop it, whatever, you remember from the class, you will try to use it, not to get angry, I can always be angry tomorrow. And then the next morning you get up and, rah, you can shout at the person or do whatever you usually want to do, it's fine. So, and the importance of that exercise is that you will learn that you can actually easily do that. Which means that anger is always a choice. It comes, no? The irritation, somewhere in your body chemistry, in your energy body, in your mental body, this anger develops, and then there is a moment, which maybe lasts only a second, where you realize, I am getting angry. And then you decide, yes, I am angry and I have reason and blah, blah, blah. Or where you can also decide, oh no, I will let it go. And so this is a very important thing. To just do this exercise a couple of times will already teach you that you are actually in control. Because most people feel, when I get angry, I can't help it. I just explode. No? Which is not true. Even for those people, even for people who explode very rapidly, there is still one moment where they are deciding, yes, I am going to be angry. It's a conscious choice. So once you know it is a conscious choice, you can make a different choice. Right? And in that way, it's important to also understand our emotions as a kind of sixth sense. Our emotions are telling us something beyond the rational. You can also have that, like somebody is doing something and you are feeling irritated, but you don't really know why. And only because you are feeling irritated, you start to think about it. And then you think, oh yes, but now he's saying this. And actually yesterday he was saying that. And last week he promised that. And if you put that all together, what he is doing at this moment is really not acceptable. And then you know why you're angry and then you can react on it. So this little irritation that comes is a little bit like a messenger. Your rational mind has not figured it out, but your emotional mind, somehow more deep inside, has found there is something going on here which is not, right, something fishy, and it helps you. So if you do this sadhana, if you do this exercise, you will learn to see this feeling coming, and then when it comes and you come in front of that choice, okay, I'm going to be angry or not, you're going to remember your promise. You promised yourself today you were going to try not to be angry. And because of it, this second will become maybe a couple of seconds, will maybe become a little bit longer, and you will be looking at the source of it. And then you can see, okay, thank you for the message. Right? The anger brought you a message. Thank you for the message. I will now think about it, but I will drop the anger. And I will think about it peacefully and react peacefully and change or say whatever is needed to be said so that this situation is stopped, but without getting angry. So this is the power of Anger Sadhana. And in the beginning, I tell you, you should only do it for a short time. Just one day. A week, for example, is very good. One day a week, Tuesday is a very good day to do it, because you are most likely to get angry on Tuesday according to Vedic astrology. But anyhow, whatever day suits you, is Mars related, mardi in French. But anyway, whatever day, and then you just do it one day, because it is a little bit a dangerous game if you do it too fast. Like one person was in one of my classes in 2007 or something it was, and he was very enthusiastic. So after the class, he decided, now I'm going to do 1 month Anger Sadhana. 2 weeks later, he really hit somebody very bad, which he had never done in his whole life. Because he was so much feeling, I cannot get angry, because he promised himself that he was bottling it up inside, could not really forgive or do anything I had been telling him because getting too much, and then suddenly he hit a person. And you also have to be a little bit careful, because if you start this kind of sadhana, you might be tested. I mean, this is in spirituality something to know. If you start particular sadhanas, this is not just going to be a usual day. This is not going to be usual. It can happen that strange things come, and you are tested. Always build it up slowly. But the idea is, of course, to do it longer and longer, but slowly. So for some time, do it 1 day a week or something, or maybe 2 if you start feeling okay about it. And then slowly you can increase it. And then 2-3 days. And then at some point, but I would say after months of doing it now and then for a day, you can say maybe for a week. But already for a week is something. No? And then after a couple of times you have done it for a week, always leaving some time in between where you can like be normal and be angry as before. You will be already less angry at that point, of course, but still you are allowed to. So the expression can happen in your relationship. Some things will be wrong. Some things will require expression. So maybe anger will be needed also to a little bit sort it out, a little bit of fire, but so slowly build it up until at some point you can say, okay, now I stop for a year. And once you stop for a year, why again start? So then at some point it becomes a continuous game. And for me it became at some point a continuous game, not to be angry. And I'm not saying I never feel any irritation. This is not what I'm saying. But it doesn't go any further than that. For me, a little irritation is just a little electrical chemical game which is coming and telling me, oh, something you should better look into. And then I say, thank you very much. I will look into it and solve it. Right? And that slowly comes, but don't go too fast. Don't go too fast. And actually, when you are doing it, don't tell anybody. I am now also talking about it for myself, but actually, you should not talk about it to people for a number of reasons. First of all, you should actually not talk about sadhana because it will reduce your courage. It will reduce your self-confidence. Because if you talk about it, you will lose the power of it. Only if you just do it for yourself, then it will be strong. But if you talk about it, then it becomes words, and that way it will become less power, and people will start expecting from you, and because they expect from you, you start being a little bit like uncertain. Will you be able to do it? So then your confidence goes down. So this is the first reason. The second reason is obviously that if you are telling other people, like your friends and relationships, that, oh, now I'm doing Anger Sadhana, they're going to have a good time. Yeah? Sure, they're going to try to test you. So I've seen that happening quite a few times, that people did things and afterwards they said, well, I just did it to see if your Anger Sadhana was still good, so okay. So that is the third reason. But the fourth reason mainly is that it may push you to suppressing the emotion. Because you will get an extra reason not to express any anger that you are feeling because, of your public image. You've told other people you're not going to get angry and still you are angry. And really need to express it because it's so strong you just can't let go. And so then you have to be able to do it. Be careful in these things. Don't, hold it down. If it can, go. Rasa Sadhana means to let it go. And you are successful if you feel, okay, I am no longer angry about it. I can think about this subject and not feel anger about it. Maybe feel some concern about it or, a little bit like wondering what am I going to do with it. But don't feel the anger about it. Then you are doing the right thing. But if you see that you are not able to do that and you are like for a prolonged time upset about it, and express it. Hit them if necessary. Some people need it. Saying. Some people are crazy. You need to wake them up. Some people really are like children. They only behave if they get a little angry. And then they behave. So don't talk about it. And the siddhi or power, which comes after long anger sadhana, after being a long time without anger, is called bhukti. And bhukti means that you have the power to enjoy whatever comes, becomes enjoyable. Because, well, as I explained, you are not expecting anything, everything which comes is okay. So then really enjoyment becomes possible. And you will find that maybe if you were not a very funny person before, that suddenly you become very easy able to make other people laugh, tell jokes and things like that. Because that fire energy of the anger will go more to joy. Will be more available to joy because the fire also needs some way to go out. So if you don't have any anger, then joy is the way you can really do it. So, Anger Sadhana is a very profound way to change yourself. Slowly, not making too much of an ego game of it. Although, of course, it is a little ego game. If you are in the morning promising yourself, I'm not going to get angry, this is a little bit an ego game. You are using your pride, so that during the day, whenever something happens, you will feel, oh, I cannot get angry because I promised myself. Even if you did not tell anybody else, if you still get angry, you're going to feel ashamed. So, this is a little game. It's nothing wrong, but don't overdo it in the beginning. Slowly, it will come. As I say, it is not that these feelings don't come. It's just that you are no longer walking along with them. That you just see them coming. Okay, thank you very much. Right? And move forward peacefully. And then only you can really develop your agreeable rasas. Because of course there are then the agreeable rasas, they are no longer disturbed by it. Because if you look at enemy and friendly rasas, the most enemies are of course between the unhappy rasas and the happy rasas. They are most enemies of each other. So if you can drop the unhappy rasas altogether, then your love, your devotion, your laughter, your joy, your wonder, all these things, they will become really strong and beautiful. So it's not that you are going to become like an emotionless plant or something, like a vegetable, Not at all. On the contrary, your emotional life will much improve, your artistic quality will much improve, all these things.